Along the myriad highways and roads of the greater Mekong subregion, every day millions of trucks are on the move. Road freight is vital for trade and prosperity in the region, helping connect goods, farmers and factories with markets. But it comes with huge challenges that include a large footprint on the region's already fragile environment.
Much of the trade that happens in the region, regional trade, global trade, is transacted through land, and a lot of it through freight transport. Unfortunately, much of this freight transport is inefficient and also quite polluting. So I think if you look at the impacts of green freight in the region, there's a significant carbon footprint in terms of the carbon emissions, but also in air pollution and impacts on human health.
Economically, logistics costs are substantial and fuel use inefficient. Together, they impact the competitiveness and profitability of the logistics industry in the GMS, especially for freight truck companies. In recent years, globally and in the GMS, green freight programs have emerged to address these challenges by bringing together the private sector, government agencies and development partners to find win-win environmental and economic solutions.
Green freight, on another side, is CO2 reductions, good for environment, but another side is to save money from the owner. The owner of the logistic company, they want to make more profit, of course. And then for the government side, we want to reduce the fuel consumption as a whole country, because that's costly.
Between 2010 and 2012, the GMS Core Environment Programme, or CEP, studied CO2 emissions from transport operating along the network of highways and roads that comprise the East-West Economic Corridor connecting Myanmar, Thailand, Laos PDR and Vietnam. It showed 1.5 million tonnes of carbon emitted in 2010 and projected that number would double by 2025. The study found that small and medium-sized truck companies dominate road freight transportation along the corridor, but they're often inefficient, typically operating old truck fleets with weak logistics management and poorly trained drivers. Gas-guzzling engines, low-quality tyres and practices such as hauling empty loads mean fuel costs often cripple profit margins for smaller operators.
Thailand is a part of AEC. We're going to have a lot of competitors in terms of logistics. So if they're not going to do anything, they're not going to be able to survive for a longer time in this business. So they have to change, they have to improve their business, and they have to increase their efficiency of the fuel consumption.
In 2013, CEP established the Green Freight Initiative to work with transport ministries, SME truck companies and freight industry partners in Laos PDR, Thailand and Vietnam to find ways to make fuel efficiency gains and improve competitiveness.
There were two main components to the Green Freight Initiative. The first was testing and demonstrating the effect and potential of aerodynamic equipment in truck fleet, but also looking at testing out low roll resistance tires, both with a view to improving fuel efficiency. The second aspect of it was really to try and influence driver behavior, to move towards more eco-driving practices. So we have now rolled out eco-driving curriculum with truck companies in Vietnam, Thailand and Laos.
The results proved technologies for fuel efficiency and eco-driver training can make a big difference.
While driving, we should shift gears properly and avoid rapid acceleration. Then emissions will be reduced. It can be a big help and saving.
Under this initiative, we following the test for 100 drivers. A lot of drivers can save fuel from 10 to 20% if they change their driving behavior. Training eco-driving is easy to implement and not require much capital. Therefore, eco-driving is one of the key for fuel saving, which reduce GHG emissions.
By reducing emissions 10 to 13%, the results prove the effectiveness of green freight technologies and eco-driving and show the commitment of freight enterprises to the community and environment. This may provide strong incentives for Vietnam's road freight enterprises to modernize their vehicles and apply eco-driving techniques. Green freight can contribute to the successful implementation of the national strategy on green growth.
We are very happy that we were part of this project. Our company received knowledge and valuable experiences and received good guidance from the instructors and participating partners. It helps our company to reduce transportation costs and makes us competitive.
The Green Freight Initiative also explored potential funding mechanisms.
When we look at green freight more generally, financing is a critical constraint, specifically the SME component. So we've tried to identify energy service companies as a viable alternative in this context. We have looked at ESCOs in terms of fostering membership amongst these SMEs, but also to look at group purchase agreements to try and reduce the cost and access to new technologies and know-how. The other part of financing, I think, that has a lot of potential and we are putting an increasing push on is to try and look at nationally appropriate mitigation actions or NAMAs here in Thailand, but also in Vietnam. The focus is to look at green freight as a central component of NAMAs.
A €2.4 million project funded by the European Union and implemented by GIZ is building on its work in 5 GMS countries. The countries too are mobilising their own resources to mainstream green freight.
The idea of integrating eco-driving into the driver training is very necessary. There are 2 directions to realise this idea. Firstly, we should add it into the professional training program. Secondly, we should develop regulations that eco-driver training is a condition of doing freight business and see it applied in a reasonable time frame with the current drivers.
CEP is now aiming to develop viable investment projects to help the GMS countries overcome financing barriers and scale up green freight approaches. Growing momentum for green freight in the sub-region is leading to a more sustainable transport sector and demonstrates that win-win economic and environmental solutions are achievable.